The minute the muse is calling, you have to respond. Just listen to deep into yourself. And then if you listen carefully, it's almost going to be like a voice. So the muse, that voice inside you, I think it's very, very important. And it is real. I mean, I'm telling you, just sending me images, it's whispering. What's important, you gotta keep painting all the time. I mean, every day. And the more you paint, the more that voice in you is loud and clear and caring.
Welcome to the BoldBrush Show, where we believe that fortune favors the bold brush. My name is Laura Oren-Gobert, and I'm your host. For those of you who are new to the podcast, we are a podcast that covers art marketing techniques and all sorts of business tips, specifically to help artists learn to better sell their work. We interview artists at all stages of their careers, as well as others who are in careers tied to the art world in order to hear their advice and insights. On today's episode, we sat down with Philippe Gandiol, a French-born artist who paints both studio work and plein air in an impressionistic style inspired by both the abstract and realism movements. He discusses his artistic journey from early exposure to art through his grandfather to working for the music industry to eventually transitioning to a full-time painting career later in life. Philippe emphasizes the importance of developing a relationship with his muse and listening to the painting itself to guide his creative process. He shares strategies for overcoming the challenges of being a self-employed artist, such as diversifying income streams and leveraging connections through art organizations. Philippe advises aspiring artists to use fear as motivation, maintain a positive mindset, and pursue their passion relentlessly. Finally, Philippe tells us about his upcoming classes and where you can sign up. Welcome, Philippe, to the BoldBrush Show. How are you today?
I'm fine, and I want to thank you very much for inviting me to this show.
Yes, of course. Anytime. I'm very happy to have invited you because your work has this beautiful impressionistic sort of style that I can tell. I see it and I can tell it's yours. And seeing your paintings on your website, it feels like I'm seeing your personal handwriting when I look at your paintings. And it almost feels like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be looking at this, but it's so beautiful. You know what I mean? Like it feels very, yeah, it feels intimate. It feels like you're really putting a piece of yourself on your work that is so honest and authentic. And I think that's one of the things that I really love about your work.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
This is, as an artist, that's what you have to do.
Yeah, exactly. But before we dive into more about your work, do you mind telling us a bit about who you are and what you do?
Okay, well, I was born in France. I was born in Paris. My parents were pharmacists, and they moved to Normandy. Normandy is on the west coast of France, really close to a famous area called Mont Saint-Michel, which is kind of a very touristic. And that's where my family comes from. So I'm a Normand. I'm a Viking. Anyway, no, I'm not. And then we moved to the Loire Valley in the center part of France. I went to high school and college in that area. I did some classes in Paris too. And then in my early 20s, I moved to California. And we have some relatives in Canada and Florida, but I didn't stay with them because I wanted to go to California because it's a cool place.
It is. It's very cool.
It was. And that's it in a nutshell. That's my life.
Wow. Okay, so you have a lot of, I guess, influence, obviously from, you being from France and obviously, Paris and studying there. That must have been wonderful because of the amount of art that you have there. I mean, the Louvre
absolutely
alone is incredible. One of my favorite museums. Yes. So would you say that you always knew you wanted to be an artist, or did you ever, maybe explore other avenues before you said, you know what, this art is for me?
I think I always knew. It's hard to tell because when I was a kid, my I lived with my parents in Normandy, for example, but spent all my summer vacation in Paris with my grandparents.
Mm.
And I was very attached to them. I had a very close connection to my grandpa, and my grandpa was an art lover. They had painting all over the house. He took me to shows, we went to the museum, we went to the Louvre, we went to Orsay, we went to different places. And I was not aware that all this was penetrating my psyche and my soul. So what he did, he loved to work with wood. So he gave me little pieces of wood and I started carving them and so forth. And later on, I got really into writing poetry, which I still do. I wrote short stories and I studied acting and then I studied art. So I think all this, was a foundation, a nourishment on that level. But at that point, I did not think I would be a full-time painter. And because when I came here in California, I had to make money.
Yeah.
And so for about a period of time, maybe 15, 10, 12 years, I worked in a music business. And I still painted on the side, but then I went up the ladder and eventually was in a big position in IT, information technology, because that's part of my personality. I do understand computers. I don't know. And I went more into design and then management and I became a VP. So that was good for the money. And so that's basically, I think art was always in the back of my mind and I keep painting. I had painting in my studio and sold them to my colleagues and so it was always there. But at some point when I was doing that job, I say, and I was around a musician all the time, so that was very uh, nourishing on the art level. And so at some point it just became obvious that I had to be who I am, which is an artist.
Yes, definitely. And it must have been, I can imagine it must have been a little bit hard for you to also, knowing you had such a great position in the music industry, uh, deciding suddenly, you know what? This isn't for me. This isn't like my soul needs something more. It must have been very difficult. Yeah.
It was, but the company was going down. There was
Mm.
lots of politics and influences and they did a little Enron. I don't know if you remember, but the Enron scandal
Oh,
when
yes.
the head of the company started taking money out and everything. And so that helped to
Mm.
make the transition. And to me, in my mind, it was very clear
Yeah.
that if I'm gonna transition to anything, I'm gonna be a painter.
Right.
That there was no, I didn't even look for another job. To my father's dismay, he was shocked. But it is me. I'm a rebel, you know.
Yeah.
I left them. I went here, and this is it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. A man after his own dream, which is it's very poetic. And actually, since you were a bit in the music industry and you also dabbled in writing and poetry and painting, who or what would you say have been your greatest influences in your work?
Wow. I think Cezanne was very big. I don't like his personality, but to speak up in a way. He's kind of a bear, and that's what they call him in France. They call him l'ours, the
Mm.
bear. And but what I like is the combination of realism and abstraction.
Mm.
When you look at the mountains Saint Victoire and all those paintings, there's lots of abstraction. They have beautiful grays, and I love grays. And so that was, but many artists, Van Gogh, yes, because my grandpa loved Van Gogh. And I went to Holland at some point to go to the Van Gogh Museum, and I was blown away by, wow, yeah. And uh, and then Dali, because Salvatore Dali, yeah, Dali the surrealism was very intriguing because it just tells a story. And that's when I realized when I paint, I need to tell a story. And I need to tell kind of my story. I mean, at least my interpretation of what I feel and what I see. But it's becoming more and more what I what I feel, how my heart and mind react to a subject or my emotion at the time, you know. And well, I love in the abstract. I love Braque, Georges Braque, very much because I like his color scheme, the tonal quality of his work, uh, and I like Kandinsky too because I
Mhm.
think the guy is brilliant. And then Fetching, I love
Oh,
Fetching. Oh man, Fetching. Oh. Anyway,
yes.
in a nutshell, Edgar Payne here in
Mm,
California
mm,
because
mm.
he's a great plein air painter, and I do plein air studies.
Yes. Yeah. And actually that brings up my next question because I'm very curious why did you settle on your I guess on for your main, work to be plein air? Did you somehow end up doing plein air? Did something lead you into plein air, or was that always an interest of yours?
In my last year in that company, I took some art classes
Mm,
in Sacramento because I live in Davis, California, which is close to Sacramento, with a woman who was a plein air painter. And I felt that it would be a good way for me to, because before that, let me rephrase, before that, I was doing lots of studio work.
mm,
I did some drawing, I was doing drawing classes, drawing the nude and so forth. And then when I encounter her, I start this plein air. It was an eye opener for me, and plein air became started. People start talking about plein air, and that reminded me the Impressionists, Cezanne, Van Gogh. They all do plein air. So I thought, wow, maybe that's what I need to do to follow the the journey of the Impressionists. So that's how it came about. And then one thing led to another. And so when I quit my job and dive into full-time painting, I connected with some people around here, and we went out and paint. And um, I started to see. I mean, the great point about plein air is you paint what you see, but arrange it in such a fashion. If the tree is not where you want it to be, you just move it on your. So you listen to the painting. I tell my student first, you see what catch your imagination or your desire, and then it's a conversation between you and what you're gonna paint, and then it becomes the conversation of the painting between you and the painting, and eventually the painting is the master. I just listen to the painting, and the painting is telling me, what about a bit of viridian green in your blue over there, and maybe a touch of alizarin crimson. And when my student ask me, how do you mix color? I say, I don't know. I just, I listen to the painting. But it is true. I really do. And plein air really helped me there. And then plein air became huge. Now it's huge.
Yeah.
And I don't do as much plein air anymore, but I use it as a study.
Mm-hmm.
So I go out. Let's say I would go to Norway, I would go out to a fjord, and then do some sketches and little plein air study. And then I would go to the studio and develop on a larger scale the abstract quality of what I saw there. But a photo is not gonna give me the data that I need, because the lens, the computer chip, they have their own mind, and it's not me. It's that tool, and I don't trust it fully. So, yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with the photography part, especially. It's useful as a tool, but I agree it unfortunately it gets rid of nuance. It gets rid of accuracy in terms of even the drawing, because even the lens has, a curve to it, so it can make things distort very
Distorted.
easily.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I totally agree. They are useful, of course, but it's good, like you do, to go out into the field, observe, do your plein air sketch, maybe go back again. But even
Yeah.
within days, I've heard some plein air artists say that sometimes, the changes in humidity or the weather can really make a place look entirely different from the first time you experience it. So it can be really
Totally.
challenging. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is what you say exactly. It's totally right. Especially if you do cityscapes, the distortion is outrageous. You know.
Mhm.
So, but I know. So now I can take a photo and I know it's gonna be distorted.
Yeah.
But it's nice for details, and
Mhm.
you know, and plein air is a good way to move you forward, because you get exposed in lots of shows. You do plein air events, people know your name a little bit. I'm not a famous artist by any means, but at least you make connections
Yeah.
with, and you meet some brilliant artists, and it is an inspiration. I'm very honored sometimes to be invited to some of those shows, because I learn a lot. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And I find that that's most artists, that's their journey, is no matter what stage they're at, they always learn, or they're always like in a state of learning, which is amazing and wonderful. And it goes to show that it's a passion that keeps on giving, because you think you know something
yes,
well enough, and then the next time
yes,
around you try again and it's totally different, and you realize how little you actually know. It's very humbling.
I know, I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think for me, I'm just starting,
Mm.
and
Mhm.
because I've got so much to learn. I mean, I'm looking at the Sargent painting. I'm like, wow, you see what I mean? It's just,
Yeah.
I'm in awe, and I'm like, so much, everything, every stroke is is. is an incredible learning experience.
Mhm.
And you had a question about blocks,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't feel the blocks so much because I feel like I have so much to learn.
Oh, that's a
So
good point.
I've got to keep painting. I mean, I paint every day. I mean, I'm addicted. It's an addiction, it is.
It's a good one.
And I mean, it is. And so you just keep going,
Mhm.
and if I feel like I need to move to the next step, I'm just, okay, it's 8 o'clock. I got to get up. I'm going to go to the studio. You take your brush, put a stroke on the canvas, and then it's history. Because
Yeah.
that stroke guides you to the next one, to the next one, to the next one, and then you do a painting.
Yeah.
And because I don't find my work that great, but what I found fantastic is the act of painting. That's what I love. And when the painting is done, I don't care. I can sell them. I don't have a favorite painting, really. My favorite painting is the one I'm gonna do after this interview. It's inspiring to talk to you, so I'm gonna paint.
I'm really
and
glad.
that and
Yeah,
that's a key.
it
That's
is.
that's a beauty. That's like wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes me wonder because, I'm always curious to know if how many artists, and usually it's a lot of them face, those creative blocks. Because I find that sometimes it can take so much energy to be inspired all the time. It can I don't know. Like, do you find that maybe it's easy for you to be inspired to paint?
I don't know if I'm inspired, to be
Hmm,
honest with you. I
interesting.
just because I'm an addict, so I have to paint,
Yeah.
inspired or not. I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, some things inspire me. Sometimes,
Mhm.
like I love the light, the light, like Rembrandt, the
Mhm.
light. Okay, so the light hits that person walking down the street in Chicago. Okay, that's inspiring. I want to paint it right away. So I take my sketchbook and then I take a photo and I leave it and I go back to the studio and I remember because you develop a very strong visual memory. My visual memory is getting stronger and stronger. I'm getting old, but it's still there. It's not going away. And so, am I inspired? Yes, I am. But it's my life. I mean, you're hungry, right? Are you inspired to eat? Yeah, you are. And you're going to eat. And then it feels good.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I answer your question, but
I,
it's,
I think I think you did in a way because it you're the way that you are referring to painting, it makes it sound, like a almost like a natural thing, right? Like being hungry, like you just said, or
yeah.
going to sleep or waking up. It comes naturally to you, which is awesome because a lot of us I find struggle to sometimes get ourselves on the canvas, but it makes me wonder if maybe it's because of fear in a way. I think a lot of us are so afraid of making a bad painting that we just would rather not paint at all sometimes. You know what I mean?
Oh no, oh no. I do bad painting all the time. I would say 70% of my paintings are bad paintings, maybe. I don't know. I don't care. I mean,
Love that.
I'm used to have bad paintings. I'm used to rejection. I get rejected all the time. I get bad painting all the time. Oh, so it's bad. Well, I just take my sander when it's dry and resurface it with some gesso and paint over. Uh, I'm not that good that I'm gonna do good paintings all the time.
Oh my God, I love
So
that. I love that. It's very carefree. It's very, I'm gonna paint. It's gonna, I'm just gonna enjoy the ride. And I think that's beautiful. I think, wow,
exactly.
that's very inspiring. Yeah.
It's like going on a date. I'm gonna go on a date with this old friend, so this gorgeous woman or whatever, and that's it. You're gonna enjoy the moment, and at some point you're gonna say, well, the relationship is not working out. That's
Yeah.
it. And I have a little bit of ADD too, kind of OCD, of that kind of, yeah,
Mm.
tendency. So I'm like a dog on a bone too. So
Mm.
I have lots of energy. I just, yeah,
Yeah.
I have lots of energy.
Yeah.
It's, it's okay. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's kind of
Yeah.
it could be hard for other people,
Mhm. Mhm.
and yeah, so
Yeah.
it's a sword with two.
Yes. Two edges. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, um, when you did make that jump into becoming an artist, a full-time artist, what was that like for you? Did you have maybe, for example, like money saved up on the side, or were you already prepared in terms of your expenses? Say like making sure you're not overspending or living below your means. Like what was that transition like for you?
well, all of the above.
Hmm.
First, there was fear,
Mhm.
but to me, fear is a stimulant. If I'm fearful, I have to overcome. Right? So I'm using the fear as a fuel to push me forward. Right? It's like a thrust. So you can redirect your emotion to a direction, especially fear, because fear paralyzes. So I have two choices: or is it gonna paralyze me, or is it gonna be um, a thrust, like like a propeller? It's gonna propels me to do something else. So that
Hmm.
was, and then I was well paid at the end of my career and on my job, because my career is to be an artist. So that was just a job.
Yeah.
I paid my house, and I put money in saving. I invested my money. I played the stock market and different investments. So it kind of grew. When I left, I lost a whole bunch of money, which was extremely fearful for me and some of my colleagues. So I decided, don't concentrate on that.
Mhm.
Look at what you did. You got your home, you got enough saving, and I say in 3 years, I'm gonna make it. And maybe it's my big ego, but I feel like if I apply myself to something, I'm gonna succeed.
Mm.
I I mean, to my own desire. To me, to succeed as an artist, not to be a famous national painter, Philippe Gandiol. Wow, wow, wow. No, it's enough money to pay my bills and to develop my relationship with the muse. With you see, because the muse is very seductive. I've got an interesting relationship. Sometimes we fight, sometimes, but but we are really, really, really good friends. You know, we are family. So,
So,
so that was, yeah. So I say I'm gonna make it.
yeah.
What else? What choice do you have? So you have to listen to yourself. I mean, if you feel like you're in tune with yourself and what you're doing is in line with your heart and soul, I would say your chances of success are pretty big. I mean, look what you're doing. You're doing this podcast, you paint, you talk to all these people, and you live in Norway. You can do it, from wherever you want to be in the world. if your husband or partner decide to move and say, yeah, I can go to Japan and do the same thing. I mean, it's just the technology allows you.
Yeah.
And you seems to me that you know it's gonna work. I mean, you know you're gonna be successful.
Yeah, you take a leap. It's truly a leap of faith of I'm gonna make this work no matter what. Which can, like you said, it can be really scary. It can be overwhelming. It can be um shocking. I mean, in my case, I moved here with maybe like $100 in my pocket,
Wow.
and I made it work,
So
you
there you
know?
go.
Yeah. So I totally understand, that fear of, oh no, what if? It's all of these what ifs happen. And was I in the best position ever? Not really. I mean, having $100 in your pocket when you move to a new country is really scary. Of course, I had
Hmm.
already used part of that money to get myself settled in a place, but I had very little time to figure stuff out, right? Um, which I could withstand, right? Because I'm young enough to be able to also have that touch of, I guess, ambition that sometimes as we age, we sometimes lose a bit of that ambition because reality sets in a little bit too much, so we can't be too delusional. But I think there is something good to be said about having high expectations and high standards uh, for yourself when you can trust yourself enough that everything's going to be okay. It's really interesting because I can see that in you as well, with your work, how you have this way of living your life of I'm just going to do it. Like this, I'm going over there, and I totally relate with that because that's also how I've lived my life. And actually, you said something earlier that I'm very curious about, which is your relationship with the Muse. How did when was the first time you thought about that, about, starting your own relationship with your personal inner muse, and how has that worked out for you? That's so cool.
Oh, that's a good question. Uh, I think when I was about maybe 15 years old, I started doing mimes, you know,
Okay.
like, and there's in French, we call it the Pierrot. I
Mhm.
forgot what it is in English. But anyway, and you do those mimes of this young, this individual, and he has a relationship with the moon, and he wants to go to the moon and sit on the moon and look at the world and float and everything. So I did a mime about that on the Adagio of Albino, which is very romantic. I don't know if you know it. I was like, oh,
Yes, it's
and
beautiful.
I'm a very romantic, well, I'm French, therefore I'm romantic right now. It's, but I am, I just like I'm a big, yeah, and and I think that's the first time I really felt the muse because when I was writing the script of this, it just was something in me that was almost separate from me, but in the same time myself that was almost dictating this script and these movements and everything. And I was studying, I was doing a bit of acting already and writing and drawing. So I was drawing sketching the stage and so forth. So maybe that was the first time I had kind of that little things. And then when I decided to do the jump, I had to establish a relationship with the muse. To me, it's her. It's
Yeah.
because I just love women. And it's a beautiful woman. And I had to really develop that in order to grow because I say I've got to be me. I cannot be George, Edgar Payne. I cannot be. I'm not gonna be John Singer Sargent, unfortunately, or Soroya. Oh my God, the light and so on. Anyway, I'm gonna have to be me. You know, humble me with all my my plus and minus and my failure and my successes. And I need a partner. I need someone to dance with. I need someone to talk to. I need someone to hold my hands uh, and push me and overcome my fears and dig deeper. And it's so hard, to paint. I mean, it's so hard. It's like people have no idea. They think you have talents. I have no talents. I just work like a bee, I work like a horse, just like pulling.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So I think that. I think the muse came from necessity,
Mm-hmm.
and then the relationship came, and then the muse told me, listen to the painting. That was like brilliant. And then so you step back and you look. All my students, when they paint it right there, just in your. How can they see? They don't see the big picture. So you step back and you look at it. The muse told me that. Say, step back and look at me. Look how beautiful I am. Look at interesting I am, and so forth. And and then I start listening to the painting. That really changed a lot in my work. So the muse, yeah, it's a long, an old friends. It's really part of me. I think all of us artists, we all have a muse. We all have that, don't you?
Yeah. At BoldBrush, we inspire artists to inspire the world because creating art creates magic, and the world is currently in desperate need of magic. BoldBrush provides artists with free art marketing, creativity, and business ideas and information. This show is an example. We also offer written resources, articles, and a free monthly art contest open to all visual artists. We believe that fortune favors the bold brush. And if you believe that too, sign up completely free at boldbrushshow.com. That's BoldBrush show.com. The BoldBrush Show is sponsored by Faso. Now more than ever, it's crucial to have a website when you're an artist, especially if you want to be a professional in your career. Thankfully, with our special link, faso.com/podcast, you can make that come true and also get over 50% off your first year on your artist website. Yes, that's basically the price of 12 lattes in 1 year, which I think is a really great deal considering that you get sleek and beautiful website templates that are also mobile friendly, e commerce, print on demand in certain countries, as well as access to our marketing center that has our brand new art marketing calendar. And the art marketing calendar is something that you won't get with our competitor. The art marketing calendar gives you day by day, step by step guides on what you should be doing today, right now, in order to get your artwork out there and seen by the right eyes so that you can make more sales this year. So, if you want to change your life and actually meet your sales goal this year, then start now by going to our special link, faso.com/podcast. That's FASO.com/podcast. I would say so. There's always a I think for some people it might manifest a little bit differently. For me personally, I just get images in my head.
Yeah.
So that's where for me it comes from, or maybe also poetry, because I also really love poetry.
Do
And
you
music.
write?
I do write, yeah. So I have my little notebook with all of my little poems and little
Wow.
weird
Wow,
thoughts and
cool.
stuff.
Excellent.
Yeah, so I relate to you a lot with that. But yeah, I'm so curious now about, how someone could get in touch with that muse, because I find that maybe some of us would benefit from building that relationship, right? Maybe we have that relationship and the muse is just waiting for us to do something, right? Um, what what do you think you could recommend to someone who maybe wants to build a better or a deeper relationship with their muse?
Well, they have to listen. I would say shut up and listen, kind of just listen to deep into yourself, just be quiet. And as you say, images will emerge because we are visual people, but we write and we do different things too. And so you have to listen to that. It's almost, and then if you listen carefully, it's almost going to be like a voice that, let's say, you know, you need more abstraction in your work because life is abstract. I mean, to me, life is completely abstract. It's just little shapes. And the impressionists, if you look at my painting from close, just little mark. And then when you step back, it go. You put it together with your eyes and your brain and something, and then you see an image. But we all see people see different images of my own work. They say, "Oh yeah, that looks like San Francisco." Well, it's New York, or whatever. But they make their own story, and then so the muse, that voice inside you, I think it's very, very important, and it is real. I mean, I'm telling you, just sending me images. It's whispering, and sometimes it's loving, sometimes it's say, what are you doing, Philippe? What is that? you know and so forth. So I don't know, I would say you have to listen and keep the faith and keep painting. What's important, you gotta keep painting all the time. I mean, every day. And the more you paint, the more that voice in you is loud and clear and and um, and caring. Because I think the muse loves me. Sometimes she hates me, but it's me. I love myself. I hate myself. I wish I was a better painter, and so forth. And I'm insecure, and I'm scared, and I got through all those emotions. So yeah, you have to nourish. You have to nourish it.
Yes, definitely. Completely agree. And of course, like you said, you have to nourish it through, you know, doing the work, like being at the studio painting.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that's brilliant. That's great. Yeah. Um,
because we all have it.
yes.
Everybody has it. Every single person on this planet has a muse.
Mhm.
But some people decide to do art, and some people decide to do nuclear physics or make bread. But
Yeah.
I like to cook. I make my own bread. It's like art.
Mhm.
Cooking is like making a painting.
Yeah.
You see? And
Yes.
uh,
Yeah, it's enjoying every creative act as well. I mean, obviously the muse will always be in every creative aspect, right? Like from what we wear, what we eat, you know, the music we listen to. So that's very interesting, in the sense that there are little clues that maybe the muse leaves in our everyday life. Like the type of music we like to listen to and asking ourselves, hey, why do I like that? Or the type of clothing we like, or the type of movies we like, type of food. Um, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot there with the muse. It's
it's very
worth looking
subtle.
into. Yes.
It's very, so you have to listen very carefully,
Yes. It's very subtle.
very carefully.
Yes.
But
Totally.
if you do, it's like, what if? Yes, da 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 da
Yeah.
da da da. Oh, why don't you try it?
Mhm.
Okay. Then oh, and that takes you somewhere else. Then
Exactly.
it comes back again and say, okay, now that you do that, what about, really? Well, see,
Ah,
yeah,
oh,
it's very
I love that.
subtle.
It is. It's very subtle. It's very subtle. Which is why, your advice of being quiet and just listening is it's so great because it's true. It's allowing this voice to have the space and the silence to be able to be heard because I think also our everyday lives are so busy and loud and energized, and there's so much going on that it can be very difficult to even have a moment of silence like that, so it's very great advice, very great advice.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It
Yeah.
works
And
for
then
me. I mean,
yeah.
we're all different,
Mm-hmm.
but the US, is very busy. When I go back to France and Europe, things slow down.
Mm-hmm.
Here, people, they're going, 200 miles an hour,
Yeah.
in, I'm sure Norway is much more.
Oh, it's
It's
slow.
quieter.
It's slow.
It's much
Yes.
slower. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going 55 and you can look at the landscape. Here we
Yeah.
just zoom through.
Yeah. Yeah. Here it feels sometimes like 15 miles an hour, which is really funny. It's extra slow. It's cruising. We're cruising. Um,
I see.
yeah. And just to go back a little bit into the business side of painting,
Yeah.
when you did jump into the career full time, did you find that you wanted to diversify your income a bit as an artist, maybe sell paintings and teach? Because I did see that you do quite a bit of teaching. Um, did you decide to diversify, or was that something that just naturally happened for you to diversify your income?
I had to diversify. I didn't feel at first, because I wanted to do teaching. So I did some consultant. I was a consultant for the company I left, or, there was,
Mm, okay.
so, and, and so that happens in the first 3 years. I did a few gigs here and there, but I was definitely a full-time painter. I was an artist. This is it. I'm just doing that on the side. I invested my money carefully, and I start as soon as possible to do kind of workshops, but I felt I was not up to that yet. But you know, just putting the foundation, and then very quickly I start teaching, because I feel that when you teach, you learn. I mean, by teaching, I'm learning so much. I mean, my students give me so much. I don't know if they have any idea how much, but I'm getting lots of ideas just by watching them, or listening to them, and so forth. So I did that, and then I started doing the workshop, which is really the best money you can do. And and then I start painting, selling my work as soon as possible, really cheap. I was selling my painting on frame, $100 or $50, take it, But it adds up. Every
Yeah.
little bit adds up, and and eventually it was enough to create an income. I have, yeah, because I did IT, so I'd be careful to invest my money. I played the market, and I know it's not for everybody, but it worked for me. And I went even into the uh, what you call it, the digital money,
Mm-hmm.
the the bitcoins.
Yeah.
So I did bitcoins here and there, for example,
Mm,
and then I'm watching it very closely. The minute I can feel the trend, I'm selling, buying low,
mm,
selling high, so that kind
mm.
of things. But that it came of my responsibility as a VP of IT or management, where you have, I had over 100 people working for me. It's a lot of people. So you have to manage budget and everything and so forth. So that helped me, actually, in that
Yeah.
respect. So it's not for everybody. Lots of artists, it's hard. And I
Mm-hmm.
do have that edge that allows me to do it. But my advice would be, once you secure enough, start teaching. And you're not gonna make a great income, but it's you're gonna learn, you're gonna grow, and then do your workshops, and sometimes do a little gig on the side, do commissions, and it's hard because they people have their picture in their mind, and it's but I don't feel like I'm compromising myself, you know. They want a painting which is not really in the style of how I paint, but hey, you know, here comes 10 grand, you know, or $5,000 or even $1,000, but that helps, you see. So you have to, I don't call it compromising. And Philippe, sometimes people say, Philippe, you know, you're really compromising. This is not the way you paint. Say, yeah, but those people are happy and make money, you
Mm. Mm. Mm.
know,
Mm.
and try to have a good relationship with them.
Yeah. 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 Those are all very good points. Because I know a lot of artists, for example, who they'll do portraits, like you said, or they'll even do pet portraits.
Yeah,
Um, and it's usually quite low budget for a lot of people to be able to do that. And they do it, and that
yeah,
helps them get started, right? So it's okay to, do tasks like that. Um, because it means, hey, you know what, I'm getting some money on the side while I start building, my prestige with my real work. And
exactly.
and yeah, and you do work with galleries too. So
Yeah.
how long did it take for you to decide to approach a gallery when, you finally got your paintings going?
To be honest with you, I have a really hard time
Mm.
because I feel that I do feel that I'm insecure about my work too.
Mm.
I have lots of insecurity. And when you approach gallery, you get rejected. They say, you know, oh, well, you come back. And then at first too, they start selling your painting. Then they say, why don't you do more entryways or whatever, you know, or more, I want your painting to be happier, you know, and so forth. So once again, you know, it's like a fine line, and sometimes I just give up. You just give up. So I'm not really, and I'm scared to go to gallery. I'm like, I'm, I'm just totally scared. So I go in there, and okay, here's my website, Faisal website, of course, the best,
Mhm.
and which is I've been with God, I've been with Faisal for a long time. And
Mhm.
but anyway, and then eventually, you know, they like, but then suddenly they stop selling, and you have to keep the relationship with them, and I'm not very good at that. And my advice to people is say, please be consistent.
Yeah.
Keep, you know, keep nurturing the relationship. If they see you often, or you talk to them, or you do visual Zoom session or whatever, which is really a good way because you can show the work and you can talk to them and so forth. That's really, really important. I need to do more of that. And COVID was really bad because that's I was in 4 galleries. Now I'm only in 2 galleries because I mean I was kind of four and a half, three galleries just stopped, or they reduced their staff and everything. So now they only have like 10 artists instead of 20, and I was not part of the 10. And they said ciao ciao,
Yeah.
and you have to live with that. So, but I think I think the market is changing, and I think direct sales are growing. And to have a good website is very important. To develop your selling skills is very important. If I could afford an agent, I would have an agent because I really don't want to have to deal with selling. Really, it doesn't feel right, and it's like, you know, and you have to say, oh yeah, I'm really good, and I don't feel that way. You see, I just don't. So it's very hard.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
But you have, I think, social media
Mhm.
takes a lot of time. It's important, Instagram, Facebook, podcast, say when someone asks you to do a podcast, say yes, even though it's hard.
Mhm.
Or
Mhm.
help and belong to different organizations like at California Art Club, Oil Painters of America, American Impressionist Society. Eventually, now I'm a signature member because I've been there for a while. So you get more status. Then you get more invitation to go to Laguna plein air or different things. It's all tied up. I know my weakness is gallery,
Mhm.
but I feel at the same times gallery used to do more just between you and I. I mean, I love
Mhm. Mhm.
galleries, but it's changing. And the
Yes.
website I'm using, they're really pushing you to sell directly. So it's an opportunity. I
Yeah.
mean, you are a wonderful opportunity for me too,
Mm.
and everything, every little thing counts.
Yes. Yes, I completely agree. Um, yeah, it's a shame that, the galleries, have come to this point of being so limited because I agree, working with a gallery is very convenient for a lot of artists, very great for a lot of artists, but it's not always accessible to the majority of artists. So yeah, I agree that, social media, having a great website, those are all very important things, especially a website where you can sell direct, which is
Yeah.
one of the things that is really great about the FASO websites. And yeah, and it's great that you're so honest and transparent about how you feel that, oh, my weakness is galleries. Because that's something else that's so important, for other artists to really notice is what are my weaknesses, where are my strong points, how can I play with these two things, so that I can make everything work. And I particularly love that you also mentioned, painting societies and being part of groups, because again, like you said, more opportunities, just putting your name out there, trying every little thing, can be useful, in the
Mhm.
long term. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And plus, I work alone. I mean, most of the time. That was a
Mhm.
huge change to go back to the
Right.
transition. I used to work with lots of people, and
Mhm.
suddenly it's me, myself, and I
Yeah.
with the muse. That's where the muse was even more important. I mean, at least have someone else with me in the studio. You see what I mean?
Mhm.
But often you're alone, and
Mhm.
so it's important to belong to different
Yeah.
groups. And the plein air was another thing, yeah. And I do feel more comfortable in my studio. I feel like
Mhm.
I'm in my cocoon, and it's like, oh yes,
Yes. Yeah.
But but you have to get yourself out, one way or another. So
Mhm. Mhm. Either virtually or in person. I mean, it's really important. Yeah. Yeah. Do you
I
have,
think it's key.
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, yeah, do you have any final advice for someone who wants to make the jump into becoming a full-time artist?
If you are an artist, you don't have a choice. You got to do it. Number one. I mean, this is it. This is your life. You know, um, this is you have to live your dreams. You have to. Otherwise, you're gonna miss out so much. And so, my advice is use your fear as a fuel. Um, paint more than ever. Be very open with your partners or whatever. So you need the support of your family. It's very hard if you don't, because then the choice is I'm breaking up or I'm not doing it. I'm gonna say something horrible, but I think if you're really an artist, you have to break up. You have to do it. I mean, and eventually they're gonna rally, but it might be difficult at first. And then you need to maybe keep a side job on the side that doesn't take you too much time, but like consulting or something, or if you're a gardener or I don't know, keep doing people's garden, or fix something and but at the same time paint because the main thrust is painting. So instead of doing 70% that job and 30% painting, you do the opposite. 70% of the time it's totally you building up your work and your career because it is a career and and then uh, and then you do that on the side. Another thing too, don't wait. I mean, I became a full. I mean, I really, when I was in my 30s working, I was thinking I need to be a full. I already was thinking about. I mean, it's okay. I know some artists, in their 60s, they retire and decide to paint. But the sooner you do it, the better off you are because it's very hard. It takes a long. I mean, for me, I'm a slow learner. I understand quickly if you explain to me for a long time. That kind of things. So I would say the minute the muse is calling, you have to respond, and you will find a way to make it work. I don't know if that's very pragmatic, but that's what I did,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it worked for me. And always think, I'm gonna make it. I am going to be successful because it is me. I'm giving it all.
Mhm. Beautiful. Yeah, no, and it's funny because you say it's not pragmatic, but I mean, in the first place, it's not a very pragmatic career. So I feel like, there's really no rules in that sense. Yeah, it's kind of a crazy, crazy career to have when you really
I
think
know.
about it. Oh, but
I
it's so
know.
much
I
fun.
know.
Yeah, yeah. By the way, do you have any upcoming workshops or courses or
No,
shows that you'd like to promote?
I don't. I need to take care of that. I'm thinking doing a workshop in Italy, maybe,
Hmm.
but I'm in negotiation and nothing is set. I just had a solo show here in
Beautiful.
Davis, like a big show, and I didn't sell as many paintings as I was hoping, of course, but it's all right. And I don't. I've got classes, and I'm gonna do small local workshops. So I do my classes all the time. So I'm finishing the my last class gonna be in a couple of days, and then I'm taking the Christmas break. Then I'm going to Australia to visit some friends, and I'm gonna be there for 3 weeks. I'm going with my wife, and she's gonna stay longer, and I'm gonna paint
Nice.
and gouache because it's easier to carry.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna take my class again. So I have a February, March, April, and then I'm gonna do some 2 days workshops, 1 or 2 days, but locally, not nationally. So once again, I it's hard for me to set up those workshops, in advance and talk. But if I don't do it, you should
Mm.
do it because workshops are the best way to make money, and it's exciting,
Yeah.
and yeah, and you connect with people. Once again, you get out of your shell, you get out of the
Mhm.
cocoon, you go outside.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And if somebody wants to take classes with you, where can they sign up?
If they want to take class with me, they can go to my website, philippegandiol.com, look under classes, and they can see my schedule. They contact me directly. I don't have a link from there because I like to talk to the person
Yeah.
to see. My classes, I don't do real beginners anymore,
Mm.
so it's more intermediate. Uh, it's too hard to do beginners and intermediate advanced in the same class.
Yeah.
So I would do, and I'm gonna do weekend or Saturday or Sundays painting session, and all that's gonna be on my website, which I'm going to update before Christmas,
Perfect.
and I'm gonna be gone for 3 weeks starting mid-January. I'll be
Mm.
back early February. So
Great.
so
Nice.
the classes will start after that. I'm not gonna do classes around the holidays because everybody's busy.
Mhm. Yeah, that's very true. It's very true. Um, there are seasons for those things as well. But yeah. And
Yeah,
then what
yeah.
is your social media?
Social media, so I'm on Facebook, and it's my name mostly. I'm on Instagram, of course,
Hmm.
and I send a newsletter, so you can go on my website and subscribe to my newsletter. I send it every month.
Oh wow.
I mean, I'm trying to almost every month,
Yeah.
and I once in a while I do some podcast or like say Oil Painters of America want me to publish something, and so if that's the case, I would advertise it on my social media.
Mhm.
I would put a painting and on Facebook or Instagram and say, okay, by the way, blah 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 blah. I would do that, and I would put that on my website too. I try to update my website as much as possible,
Mhm.
and so if you look at the website, you'll see what I'm doing.
And then I will include all of your links in the show notes so that people can go
Okay.
check out your
And
beautiful, beautiful work.
if you need for me to send you the link exactly, I can do that after
Sure.
this
Yeah,
conversation.
perfect. Well, thank you so much, Philippe, for your very wonderful, candid, transparent advice. I think I'm definitely gonna sit alone and listen to my muse for a good
Okay.
long while.
Well, thank you so much, Laura. Wonderful meeting you again.
Yeah, you
And
too.
thank you again for this interview.
Of
I
course.
really appreciated it.
Yeah, me too.